like somebody snapped their finger and there was no marriage between us, you know?
Right.
It was like, boom.
When I think about how quickly he moved forward from me to Marjorie, that was disturbing.
Like somebody snapped their fingers and boom. The entire Harvey empire is shaking at its absolute core. What if the most heavily guarded million-dollar public relations shield in Hollywood history just cracked wide open? We are not talking about some typical run-of-the-mill celebrity gossip here. This is a digital wildfire. The internet is currently melting down over a massive headline. Marjorie Harvey faces Mary Harvey after her shocking past dirty tapes get leaked. For nearly 2 decades, Steve and Marjorie sold the world a flawless, pristine fairy tale. They gave us red carpets, matching designer outfits, and endless relationship goals advice. Meanwhile, Steve's second wife, Mary Harvey, was painted as the bitter, unstable ex-wife who was simply left behind in the dust of their success. But what happens when the ghosts of the past refuse to stay buried? What happens when secret recordings, underground Memphis transcripts, and hidden files suddenly breach the surface of the dark web? According to massive viral reports, a set of explosive unedited tapes has just been leaked. And word on the street is that these files don't just validate everything Mary claimed years ago. They completely dismantle Marjorie's carefully curated high society persona. Are we looking at the definitive end of the Harvey family-friendly brand? Grab your popcorn, lock your doors, and turn up your volume. We are about to decode the absolute chaos that happens when the street queen finally meets the woman who paid for the throne. The curtain has finally been pulled back on the glamorous illusion that is the Harvey lifestyle. And what is hiding behind it is absolute chaos. To understand the sheer magnitude of this newly leaked scandal, we have to look directly at the key players involved and the heavy, toxic baggage they have been carrying for decades. On one side, you have Steve Harvey, the billionaire media mogul, the relationship guru, the man who wrote books telling women exactly how to think and act if they want to keep a man. On the other side, you have Marjorie Harvey, the current queen of the empire, a woman celebrated for her high-fashion wardrobe and elite lifestyle. But standing in the shadows of all this luxury is Mary Harvey, the second wife who was completely erased from the narrative like she never even existed. For years, the public was fed a very specific, highly manicured story about how Steve met Marjorie, fell in love at first sight, and lived happily ever after. But anyone who has been tracking this family knows that their reputation has been plagued by dark rumors, intense legal battles, and allegations of massive media manipulation. This new leak is not just a minor bump in the road for them. It is a direct confrontation between Marjorie's hidden past and Mary's long-ignored truths. The reason this specific leak is causing a massive structural collapse on social media is because of the terrible reputation that has followed Marjorie Harvey for years. Long before she was sitting front row at Paris Fashion Week, rumors were swirling about her deep connections to the criminal underbelly of Memphis. The internet has never forgotten the infamous nickname whispered in the streets, Lady Heroin. It was a title born out of her marriages to some of the most dangerous, high-profile substance traffickers in the city's history, men whose operations were eventually dismantled by the federal government. When those empires crumbled, Marjorie somehow managed to pivot, transitioning seamlessly from the chaotic underworld into the arms of a rising Hollywood star. Mary Harvey has spent nearly 20 years shouting into the void, claiming that this transition was not a romance, but a highly calculated corporate takeover of her own marriage. But because Steve had 60 radio markets, major television contracts, and a fortress of high-powered attorneys, Mary was completely silenced to the point of being thrown in jail for contempt of court just for speaking her mind. Now look at how the tables have turned with the arrival of these leaked files. The suspense building across online forums is reaching a fever pitch because these are not just text messages or blurred photographs. We are talking about unedited audio and video archives that have reportedly surfaced from old legal storage and private investigator files. Think about the sheer panic happening behind the scenes at the Harvey headquarters right now. For years, they managed to maintain a family-friendly image that secured massive brand deals and daytime television dominance. But this leak acts as an unmasking of epic proportions, showcasing the stark contrast between the holy, righteous relationship advice Steve hands out and the cutthroat reality of how his current marriage was actually constructed. It is the ultimate celebrity nightmare because you cannot sue an anonymous leaker, and you cannot issue a public relations statement to erase raw audio. The public is looking at these three individuals and realizing that the narrative they bought into for 2 decades might be the biggest scam in modern entertainment history. What makes this introduction to the scandal so intensely gripping is the sudden, unexpected vulnerability of the Harvey brand. For decades, they operated with absolute impunity, confident that their money and social influence could bury any skeleton in their closet. If an ex-wife spoke out, they slapped her with a gag order. If a tabloid tried to publish an expose, a team of lawyers threatened a multimillion-dollar lawsuit before the ink could even dry. They built a literal fortress around Marjorie's past, ensuring that any mention of her previous life was dismissed as bitter, jealous gossip. But the digital age has a funny way of leveling the playing field. When files are dumped onto decentralized platforms and shared by millions of anonymous users simultaneously, the traditional Hollywood playbook becomes completely useless. You can see the shift in public perception happening in real time under every single video and article discussing the leak. The collective awe and shock from the audience stem from the realization that the people who claim to have all the answers to a perfect life might have built their entire castle on a foundation of lies and manipulation. This is the exact point where the shiny golden image of the Harvey family completely disintegrates into a million pieces. The suspense is no longer about whether Marjorie had a wild past. Everyone already knew that. The real suspense, the thing that is keeping millions of viewers glued to their screens, is how Marjorie is going to face Mary now that the actual receipts have bypassed the court system and landed directly in the court of public opinion. It is a psychological thriller playing out in real life, where the woman who was discarded and left with nothing is suddenly vindicated by the technology of the future. The emphatic phrases being thrown around by industry insiders suggest that this is the kind of scandal that does not just blow over in a week or two. This is the kind of historic exposure that permanently alters a legacy, forcing the public to re-examine every piece of media, every book, and every inspirational speech Steve Harvey has ever given. The stage is set, the players are backed into their corners, and the true nature of what happened behind closed doors is finally pouring out into the open light of day. The leaked files don't just stop at introducing old drama. They provide a systematic, highly detailed breakdown of what can only be described as a shadow lifestyle. According to deep dive reports circulating from independent digital investigators, these tapes contain conversations that map out the exact timeline of the transition from Mary to Marjorie. For years, the official story was that Steve and Mary were already completely broken up and divorced before Marjorie ever entered the frame. But these leaked audio logs paint a drastically different picture, one filled with secret apartment leases, hidden bank accounts, and coded messages sent through intermediaries. The level of detail is so specific that it matches the exact descriptions Mary gave in her older, suppressed interviews, the ones where she claimed she found letters outlining the microscopic details of Steve's secret life with Marjorie. Hearing it described by a frustrated ex-wife is one thing, but if the public is actually listening to the raw, unfiltered coordination of this affair on tape, the entire moral high ground that Steve stands on vanishes instantly. Furthermore, the leaked findings point to a massive abuse of power that took place during the custody battles over Steve and Mary's son, Winton. The files reportedly contain legal strategies and private discussions on how to use Steve's massive media presence to completely overwhelm Mary in the court system. This is where the story shifts from a simple celebrity affair into a devastating example of corporate and social bullying. In these alleged recordings, you can hear the cold, calculated approach to handling a spouse who does not have the financial resources to fight back. It highlights a dark reality of Hollywood, where justice belongs to whoever has the biggest budget for a legal team. The public reaction to this specific breakdown has been filled with absolute rage, as people begin to realize that a mother's separation from her child was used as a strategic chess piece to protect a television brand. The hypocrisy is what cuts the deepest for the audience. Watching a man who praises family values on television allegedly plot the complete emotional and financial erasure of the woman who helped him build his career. As these details continue to flood the internet, the focus shifts heavily onto Marjorie's reactions behind closed doors. Sources close to the family claim that the atmosphere inside their mansion is pure panic, a far cry from the serene, luxurious vacation photos they usually post on Instagram. Marjorie has spent years crafting a persona of ultimate sophistication, a woman who is completely unbothered by the rumors of her past because she has successfully ascended to the highest ranks of elite society. But this leak forces her to confront the reality that her past was never truly erased. It was just paused. The contrast between her public image and the raw content of these leaked tapes is creating a massive wave of sarcasm across social media, with commentators pointing out the irony of a lifestyle funded by relationship advice books, while the actual relationship was built on a series of undercover maneuvers. The narrative is no longer under their control, and for a family that has spent millions controlling the media, losing total control is the ultimate defeat. The sheer volume of fake investigative findings and anonymous quotes dropping every hour is creating a massive snowball effect that the Harvey PR team cannot keep up with. Every corner of the internet is dissecting the timeline, comparing the dates on the alleged leaked documents with the dates of Steve's major career milestones. People are realizing that during the exact year Steve was being celebrated as America's favorite dad and talk show host, a massive bitter war was being waged in private to keep Mary completely broke and silent. The psychological warfare that Mary described for 18 years is suddenly becoming highly visible to the average viewer. It is a total shift in the power dynamic, where the wealth and social connections that Steve used to silence Mary are now the exact reasons why this scandal is drawing billions of eyes. The larger you are, the bigger the target, and the Harvey empire has become the biggest target on the internet. This brings us to the ultimate realization that the leaked tapes have created a permanent bridge between the past and the present. Marjorie can no longer pretend that her history in Memphis has no bearing on her current status as a global style icon. The tapes have connected the dots in a way that no tabloid ever could, linking the methods used in the past to the immense wealth and power she enjoys today. It is a brutal, unvarnished look at the price of Hollywood's success and the human collateral left behind in the process. Mary Harvey's long, painful journey from a supportive wife to a silenced ex-wife is finally being re-examined by a world that once dismissed her as crazy. The validation is immense, but the damage to the Harvey legacy is completely irreversible, as the world watches the empire crack under the weight of its own hidden truths, leading directly into the massive public and legal fallout that is about to explode next. The explosion of these leaked tapes has completely shattered the wall of silence that the Harvey legal team spent millions of dollars constructing over the last 2 decades. As the digital archives continue to circulate across alternative media platforms, we are getting an unvarnished, highly problematic breakdown of what went on during the transition from the old Harvey household to the new luxury regime. Independent commentators and digital sleuths are currently picking apart hours of audio that point to a highly organized system of deception. This is not just a case of a relationship fizzling out over time. The leaked documents suggest a coordinated effort to financially isolate Mary Harvey while providing Marjorie with an elite, undercover lifestyle funded directly by the fruits of Mary's initial investments. According to anonymous whistleblowers close to the old management circle, the level of lavish spending that occurred during the final years of Steve's second marriage was astronomical. The leaked logs allegedly show heavy financial transactions tied to secret bank accounts utilized to maintain high-end properties in multiple cities. While Mary was under the impression that their joint finances were being directed toward building their family legacy and securing future stability, massive sums were reportedly being diverted to ensure Marjorie's comfort. The public reaction to these specific findings has been a mixture of absolute disgust and heavy sarcasm, with social media users pointing out that Steve's famous relationship book should have been titled How to Hide Your Assets from the Woman Who Built You. The breakdown gets even more complicated when you look at the imaginary statements and leaked testimonies dropping from alleged former staff members who worked inside the Harvey residences during that chaotic era. One anonymous source, claiming to be a former driver for the family, stated that the logistical operations required to keep Marjorie hidden from Mary were comparable to a military campaign. Schedules were synchronized to the minute, flights were booked under corporate pseudonyms, and security personnel were forced to sign strict non-disclosure agreements with massive financial penalties for any leaks. The contrast between this hectic, deceptive reality and the calm, family-first persona Steve projected on daytime television is precisely why the internet is refusing to let this topic slide. As the documents gain more traction, public forums have become a battleground of intense debate and heavy scrutiny. People are comparing the lavish lifestyle Marjorie currently displays on her social media platforms, from million-dollar haute couture collections to private jet excursions across Europe, with the documented financial struggles Mary faced after the divorce. The general consensus growing among the audience is that Marjorie did not just marry a wealthy man. She actively replaced a woman who had sacrificed her own capital and youth to create that wealth. The leaked files are being viewed as the ultimate confirmation of Mary's oldest claims, proving that the high society life Marjorie enjoys today was built entirely upon a foundation of structural and emotional theft. Furthermore, the public reaction has triggered a massive re-examination of Steve Harvey's career timeline. Viewers are realizing that the peak of his commercial success, including his massive radio syndication and major network television deals, happened exactly during the time he was allegedly using his immense social influence to crush his ex-wife in court. The irony is heavy, and the commentary online is biting. Thousands of users are pointing out the deep hypocrisy of a man lecturing the working class about morality and hard work, while his private life was reportedly a masterclass in corporate bullying and personal erasure. The narrative has completely shifted from a simple celebrity divorce into a historic symbol of Hollywood corruption and greed. The leaked findings also hint at an even darker aspect of this transition, involving the psychological manipulation of the family dynamic. Reports state that the tapes contain private strategy sessions where the main goal was to rewrite the history of the marriage in the eyes of the public and the legal system. The plan was simple yet devastating. Paint Mary as the unstable, aggressive antagonist who walked away from a good man, thereby justifying her complete exclusion from the financial and social benefits of the Harvey empire. This strategic gaslighting is what has resonated most deeply with the public, sparking widespread outrage over how easily a powerful media figure can distort reality to protect his corporate partnerships and brand endorsements. Inside the industry, rumors are swirling that major corporate sponsors are quietly monitoring the public fallout from these leaked files. For a long time, the Harvey name was a gold standard for family-friendly entertainment, guaranteeing high ratings and clean advertising revenue. But with the unmasking of these tapes, that pristine image is rapidly dissolving. Marketing experts are noting that the modern audience is far less forgiving of systemic hypocrisy than audiences were 20 years ago. You cannot simply smile on a talk show and expect a multi-layered scandal involving leaked criminal past links and marital destruction to fade away into the background. The pressure is mounting, and the cracks in the fortress are becoming too wide to hide. The reaction from the Harvey inner circle has been one of complete, frozen panic. Sources claim that emergency meetings are being held daily to figure out how to counter the viral spread of the leaked tapes. The traditional playbook of issuing generic legal threats and filing copyright strikes is failing completely because the files are being hosted on decentralized platforms that corporate lawyers cannot easily touch. The helplessness of a billionaire couple facing the raw, uncontrollable power of the internet is providing a massive amount of entertainment for commentators, who are watching the masters of media control completely lose their grip on the narrative. What makes this section of the breakdown so incredibly captivating for the audience is the feeling of delayed justice. For 18 long years, Mary Harvey was the villain in the mainstream media story. She was the woman who went to jail, the woman who was silenced by gag orders, and the woman who was dismissed by millions of fans as a bitter ex. But these leaked tapes have flipped the script entirely, turning Mary into a tragic figure of resilience and Marjorie into the ultimate calculator. The sheer speed at which public sympathy has migrated from the current Harvey household to the discarded ex-wife is proof that no matter how much money you spend to bury the truth, the internet always finds a way to dig it up. The breakdown also highlights the deep-seated resentment the public feels toward elite figures who believe they are above the rules. People are looking at the meticulous way Marjorie allegedly navigated her way into Steve's life, using his own security team for access, establishing a parallel existence while Mary was at home, and realizing that this was a masterclass in social climbing. The humor being used in online memes and commentary is sharp and unforgiving, mocking Marjorie's high-fashion poses by overlaying them with audio clips from the leaked files. The contrast is devastating to her brand, effectively turning her into a caricature of Hollywood ambition. As we look closer at the fake investigative results being shared by online communities, the focus is shifting toward the financial network that supports the Harvey empire. Analysts are pointing out that a large portion of their wealth is directly tied to the trust and loyalty of everyday women who buy Steve's books and watch his shows. If those women collectively decide that the advice they were given was written by a hypocrite who allowed his family to be dismantled from the inside, the financial consequences will be cataclysmic. The leaked tapes are not just damaging their reputation, they are threatening the very economic engine that funds their billionaire lifestyle. The public is also demanding answers regarding the role the legal system played in this entire saga. The leaked files have exposed how easily a wealthy individual can weaponize the courts to silence an opponent who lacks equal financial resources. This has transformed the scandal from a piece of celebrity gossip into a broader social commentary on class, power, and institutional injustice. Viewers are expressing a profound sense of validation on Mary's behalf, noting that her decades of suffering were not a result of her own instability, but the result of a calculated legal execution designed to protect a highly profitable television asset. The tension continues to build as more snippets of the alleged audio are translated and analyzed by independent creators. Every new release brings a fresh wave of public scrutiny, with viewers hanging on to every word, trying to decipher the exact motives of everyone involved. The suspense is palpable, and the digital landscape is buzzing with anticipation for the next major drop of files. The Harvey PR machine has never faced an adversary this relentless, and their continued silence is only fueling the fire, making the public even more convinced that the contents of the leaked tapes are entirely authentic. This massive wave of public exposure has created a permanent shift in how the entertainment industry views the Harvey family legacy. They can no longer walk onto a stage or a red carpet without the heavy shadow of these leaked files looming over them. The pristine, untouchable image that took 20 years to build has been dismantled in a matter of days by the raw voice of the past. The public has made its decision, and the demand for absolute transparency is growing louder by the minute, forcing the family into a tight corner where their money can no longer buy them an escape. The breakdown of this scandal has effectively set the stage for a massive institutional confrontation, as the public backlash begins to morph into structural consequences. The era of unchecked media manipulation is officially over for the Harvey household, and they are now forced to sit and watch as the world dissects the dark reality of how their kingdom was truly won. The momentum is entirely in the hands of the audience and the leaks, leading directly into the devastating legal and financial fallout that is currently preparing to break over their empire in the next phase of this exposure. The momentum of this digital exposure has completely crossed over from the realm of social media commentary into serious structural and institutional chaos. The leaked files have triggered a massive wave of public accountability that is now forcing external organizations to look into the financial and legal history of the Harvey corporate machine. Independent legal analysts are predicting that the documentation found within these leaked archives could easily justify a reopening of past financial declarations and divorce settlement oversight. We are looking at a situation where a private celebrity dispute is rapidly morphing into a highly visible corporate crisis, with major broadcast syndicates quietly consulting their legal departments to evaluate the long-term viability of their contracts. The potential for federal and state investigations into the Harvey financial network has become the main topic of discussion among industry insiders. The leaked tapes reportedly contain conversations regarding the cross-border movement of massive capital structures designed to minimize visible assets during high-stakes court proceedings. If these reports are verified by regulatory bodies, it could lead to intense probes into tax compliance and asset shielding strategies used over the last 2 decades. The anticipation building around these hypothetical financial audits is creating immense tension, as the public realizes that the penalty for this level of systematic deception goes far beyond a ruined reputation and could land directly in the territory of heavy institutional fines and frozen corporate accounts. As the backlash intensifies, the corporate partnerships that form the bedrock of Steve Harvey's billionaire status are beginning to show severe fractures. Major networks and global brands that have utilized Steve's family-friendly image to sell merchandise, television shows, and advertising space are facing a massive dilemma. Online campaigns calling for a complete boycott of Harvey-endorsed products are gaining thousands of signatures every hour. The modern corporate landscape is incredibly risk-averse, and no executive wants their brand attached to a legacy that is currently being accused of deep-seated hypocrisy, legal bullying, and historic marital destruction. The whispers of upcoming contract terminations and executive resignations within his production companies are growing louder by the day. Furthermore, the public is demanding a complete structural overhaul of how celebrity gag orders are managed within the family court system. This scandal has highlighted a massive flaw in the legal framework, demonstrating how easily a wealthy media mogul can use a court-mandated silence to isolate and punish a less powerful individual. Activists and legal reform groups are utilizing Mary Harvey's historic struggle as a primary example of why these restrictive legal shields should be abolished. The narrative has expanded into a national conversation about institutional equity, transforming Mary from a silenced victim into a symbol of resistance against the weaponization of wealth in American courtrooms. The financial crisis within the Harvey camp is being described by anonymous financial consultants as an absolute emergency. For years, their high society lifestyle, consisting of elite real estate portfolios, high fashion acquisitions, and private aviation, was entirely dependent on a continuous stream of premium entertainment revenue. With the potential freezing of media assets and the rapid cancellation of lucrative speaking engagements, the economic engine that funds Marjorie's lavish lifestyle is facing a sudden, catastrophic halt. Commentators are pointing out the immense poetic justice of this situation, noting that the luxury built upon the erasure of Mary Harvey's original financial investments is now being dismantled by the very same truth she tried to tell years ago. Inside the family dynamic, the psychological fallout is reportedly causing a total internal collapse. Sources claim that the carefully manufactured unity that the couple always projected to the public has completely disintegrated under the weight of these leaks. Marjorie is reportedly furious that her highly protected past has been laid bare for the entire world to analyze, while Steve is facing the reality that his status as America's favorite life coach is permanently dead. The irony of their situation is a massive source of dark humor for the internet, as millions of viewers watch the self-proclaimed masters of human relationships fail to navigate the absolute destruction of their own carefully managed kingdom. The global audience is currently participating in what can only be described as a digital trial, where every piece of information is cross-referenced with Steve's old books and motivational videos. Users are creating viral compilations that contrast Steve's public statements about honoring women with the raw, cold audio clips from the leaked archives. This format of exposure has made it impossible for the Harvey PR team to launch a successful counter-narrative, as their own material is being used against them to prove a decades-long pattern of behavior. The total loss of media control is the ultimate punishment for a couple that believed their wealth made them completely immune to public scrutiny. As we watch this crisis unfold, the focus remains heavily on the complete vindication of Mary Harvey. The world is finally looking at her past interviews through a clear lens, realizing that her anger, her frustration, and her apparent instability were the natural reactions of a woman who was systematically gaslit by a massive media apparatus. The public apology flowing toward Mary across all digital spaces is unprecedented, marking a total shift in how society views discarded spouses of powerful men. The leaked tapes have effectively rewritten entertainment history, ensuring that Mary will no longer be remembered as a bitter antagonist, but as the primary witness to the dark reality of Hollywood ambition. The structural consequences are also extending to the next generation of the family brand, with public scrutiny beginning to affect the commercial ventures of Marjorie's children, including Lori Harvey. The family name, which was once a golden ticket to elite fashion circles and luxury brand endorsements, has suddenly become highly radioactive. Brand managers are quietly advising companies to distance themselves from any promotional campaigns involving the Harvey lineage until the full scope of the legal and financial fallout is realized. The multi-generational empire that Steve and Marjorie attempted to build on top of the wreckage of his second marriage is experiencing a complete systemic failure. The tension in the media industry is at an all-time high as everyone waits to see which major network will be the first to officially sever ties with Steve Harvey. Television programmers know that continuing to air his content in the current climate will invite massive public protests and a total withdrawal of premium advertisers. The clock is ticking for the Harvey media empire, and the complete lack of a formal, coherent response from their camp is being interpreted by the public as a total admission of guilt. The silence from their heavily paid public relations experts is deafening, proving that some scandals are simply too massive for a corporate statement to fix. This phase of the scandal has effectively demonstrated that the power of decentralized digital platforms is far greater than the traditional gatekeepers of Hollywood. A billionaire cannot buy the internet, and a team of high-powered attorneys cannot file an injunction against a worldwide movement for transparency. The Harvey family is learning this lesson in the most painful way possible, as they sit in their silent mansion and watch their entire legacy being picked apart by millions of everyday people who refuse to accept corporate hypocrisy any longer. The era of their unchecked social dominance has officially come to a close. The legal and financial crisis currently unfolding around the Harvey household is a stark reminder that the truth has a funny way of surviving even the most expensive burial attempts. Marjorie's strategic maneuvers, Steve's media monopoly, and the institutional bullying that defined Mary's life for 18 years have all collided to create the biggest celebrity collapse of the modern era. The momentum is entirely unstoppable, and the public is refusing to look away until absolute accountability is delivered. The stage is completely set for the final, definitive conclusion of this historic exposure, as the world prepares to witness the ultimate resolution of a 20-year war for the truth. This brings us to the absolute end of the most explosive exposure in modern celebrity history. The illusion has been completely shattered, and the Harvey empire is left standing in the ruins of its own carefully constructed deception. Now, the real question belongs to you. Do you believe that Marjorie Harvey can ever truly recover her high society status now that her hidden past has breached the surface? Or is this the definitive poetic vindication that Mary Harvey has been waiting 18 long years to finally receive? Let me know your absolute thoughts in the comments down below. Drop your theories, your analysis, and your reactions because the internet is watching the structural collapse happen in real time, and every single voice matters. If you want to stay completely ahead of the curve on this massive, unfolding scandal, make sure to hit that like button right now. Do not forget to share this video with everyone you know who still believes in the manicured Hollywood fairy tale. Subscribe to the channel and turn on all your notifications so you never miss a single update as more unedited files and hidden documents continue to leak from the dark web. Thank you for tuning in to the ultimate source of unfiltered digital truths, and we will see you in the very next breakdown.